The snow fell in soft, relentless flakes, blanketing the cracked pavement outside the old diner on Route 17. Under the dim glow of a flickering street lamp, a tattered tent sagged against the alley wall, its canvas patched with duct tape trembling in the winter wind. Inside, Clara huddled beneath a threadbare blanket, her fingers clutching a chipped mug that had long gone cold. Her breath fogged in the air, a fleeting ghost of warmth. She was 62, but the years had carved deeper lines into her face, each one a story of loss she'd never tell. The world moved on around her cars, humming past, laughter spilling from the diner's open door, but Clara felt invisible, a shadow no one saw. What kind of loneliness lingers when even the cold feels like an old friend? And for a moment, silence filled the alley, broken only by the crunch of boots on snow. Clara's eyes flicked up, wary, expecting another passerby to hurry past, their gaze averted. But this time, the footsteps stopped. A stranger stood at the mouth of the alley, his silhouette framed against the diner's neon glow. He was older, maybe 70, his coat dusted with snow, a worn scarf loose around his neck. In his hand, a small paper bag dangled, steam curling from its edges. Clara tensed, her heart thudding. She'd learned to distrust kindness; it always came with a price. The man crouched slowly, his knees creaking, and set the bag just inside the tent's flap. "It's just coffee," he said, his voice low, gravelly, like he hadn't spoken in hours. "And a muffin. Blueberry. They're good here." Clara stared, her fingers tightening on the blanket. She didn't move, didn't speak. The man's eyes met hers, not with pity, but with something softer, something that made her chest ache. Why would a stranger care, when even her own daughter hadn't called in years? He didn't wait for a reply, just nodded once and turned back into the snow, his boots leaving faint tracks that disappeared under the falling flakes. Clara waited until he was gone, then reached for the bag. The coffee was still hot, warming her palms through the paper cup. She lifted the lid, and a folded piece of paper slipped out, fluttering to the ground. Her breath caught as she unfolded it, a $20 bill, crisp and tucked inside a note. In shaky handwriting, it read, "For a warm meal. You're not alone." Her eyes stung, and she pressed the note to her chest, the words blurring through tears she hadn't shed in years. The next morning, Clara sat at the diner's counter, the $20 bill smoothed out beside her. The coffee and muffin were long gone, but the note lay tucked in her coat pocket, a weight she couldn't ignore. The diner smelled of bacon and syrup, its red vinyl stools creaking under the weight of regulars, truckers, retirees, a young couple sharing a milkshake. Clara felt out of place, her worn jacket and tangled hair drawing side glances. But the waitress, a woman with kind eyes and a name tag reading Doris, slid a plate of pancakes in front of her without a word. "On the house," Doris murmured, winking. Clara's throat tightened. I can pay," she said, her voice rusty, pointing to the bill. Doris just smiled. "Save it for something nice." Clara's fingers traced the note in her pocket, and for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of warmth that wasn't from the coffee. "You ever feel like kindness finds you when you need it most?" She ate slowly, savoring each bite, the sweetness of the syrup mingling with the salt of a single tear. Across the counter, a man in a flannel shirt glanced her way, his eyes lingering not with judgment but curiosity. He looked familiar, though she couldn't place him. Over the next few days, Clara returned to the diner, the 20 still unspent, the note her talisman. She'd sit at the counter, nursing a coffee, listening to the hum of conversation. Doris started calling her by name, and the man in flannel Henry, she learned, nodded hello each time. He was a retired mechanic, widowed, with a quiet laugh and hands that fidgeted with a napkin when he spoke. One morning, he slid onto the stool beside her, "Cold out there," he said, his voice gentle. "You holding up okay?" Clara hesitated, unused to questions that didn't demand something in return. "I'm managing," she said, her fingers brushing the note in her pocket. Henry nodded, like he understood more than she'd said. He told her about his wife, how she'd loved this diner, how he came every morning to feel close to her. Clara found herself talking too about the tent, the years on the street, the daughter who'd stopped calling after a fight Clara couldn't even remember. When did a stranger's story start to feel like your own? Henry listened, his eyes steady, and when he left, he slipped a folded napkin across the counter. Inside was another note. "You're stronger than you know." No money this time, just words, but they hit harder than the 20 ever could. The turning point came on a bitter Sunday morning. The diner nearly empty, the snow piling high outside. Clara sat in her usual spot, the note from the first night now worn soft from handling. Henry was there, quieter than usual, his coffee untouched. Doris leaned over, her voice low. "Heard something on the radio this morning," she said. "Someone posted about you online. Said they saw a guy leave money in a tent, and now folks are talking, calling it the kindness chain. They're leaving notes and food all over town." Clara froze, her heart pounding. She pulled out the note, her hands trembling. This was me," she whispered. Henry looked up, his eyes wide. "That was you?" he said, his voice soft with awe. I left that coffee, that note." Clara's breath hitched. She'd thought he was just a regular, not the stranger who'd changed everything. "Why?" she choked out. Henry's gaze dropped to his hands. "My wife, she always said small things matter. After she passed, I stopped believing it. But then I saw you, and I don't know. I just wanted to try. Could this moment, this one act, rewrite everything they believed about life and loss?" The diner fell silent, the weight of his words settling over them like the snow outside. Clara reached out, her hand resting on his. "You gave me more than coffee," she said, her voice breaking. "You gave me hope." The days that followed were different. The kindness chain spread, a quiet ripple through the small town. People left blankets, meals, notes in alleys and doorways. Clara's tent was gone, replaced by a cot in a shelter. But she kept coming to the diner, where Doris saved her a stool, and Henry shared stories of his wife's garden. One morning, Clara arrived with a small paper bag of her own. Inside was a knitted scarf, bought with the 20 she'd finally spent at the thrift store down the street. She slid it across to Henry, her hands steady. "For you," she said, "to keep you warm." Henry's eyes glistened, and he wrapped the scarf around his neck, his fingers lingering on the soft wool. The diner hummed, with life regulars chatting, plates clinking, the smell of coffee thick in the air. Clara looked around, no longer invisible, no longer alone. What if your smallest kindness became someone else's reason to keep going? She didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, she felt part of something, a community. A second chance, a healing she hadn't known she needed. Has kindness ever changed your life? Tell us in the comments. Your story might inspire our next video. Subscribe to The Kind Story for weekly real-life inspiration and explore our playlist of emotional kindness stories. This story is a work of fiction or dramatized for entertainment purposes. While it may be inspired by real human emotions and events, all characters, names, and situations are either entirely fictional or modified for storytelling. This content fully complies with YouTube's community guidelines and is intended to inspire, not mislead.